This is the IELTS listening test, created and published by IELTSonlinetests.com 2025. You will hear a number of different recordings and you have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 2 minutes to check your answer. Now turn to part 1.
Part 1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a woman who is moving to London and an employee of a relocation service. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 7. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 7.
London Relocation Services, Daniel speaking. How may I help you?
Good morning. My family and I are moving to London later this year, and I wonder if you can help.
Sure. First of all, I'll need to get some personal details. May I take your full name, please?
It's Anna Woods.
Thanks. Where are you moving from?
Northern Ireland, just outside Belfast, actually.
Right. And what's your current address?
It's 118 Fordyce Park. I'll spell that for you. It's Fordyce. And that's in Ballysillan.
And what's the postcode?
It's BT14 9BJ.
All right. And could I take a contact phone number?
I'll give you my mobile number, as you can get me on that anytime. It's 07840 51963.
Great. Got that. Now, we always like to get a bit more information about the families that we're moving. It helps with the search. Are you moving for work?
Yes, my husband's just got a new job in London.
And what about you? Do you work?
Well, I've been working as a teaching assistant recently, but I'm actually a qualified nurse and I'd like to get back into that if possible.
Right. And do you have any children?
Yes, a son. So we need to find a school for him.
Is it a secondary school you'll be looking for?
No, he's still in primary school. He's not quite at the secondary level yet.
Fine. So, let's go on to talk about your requirements for the property. Do you have a preferred location? Is your husband's job in the centre?
No, it's in East London, but we'd rather live somewhere quieter.
Sure. There are some lovely areas in the south.
OK, that sounds great. Now, my husband doesn't want to spend too long commuting to work every day.
So I imagine that ideally he'd like to be not too far from a station then.
Yes, he drives now, but I guess that's not going to be possible, and he's not keen on buses.
What about you or your son? Do you have any preferences? Does your son do any sport, for example?
He's quite active, so I'm sure he'd love a park nearby to run around in. He doesn't do swimming or anything like that.
Great.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 8 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 8 to 10.
So, what sort of property do you have in mind?
We have friends who live in an amazing flat over there, but as we've always lived in a house, I think we'll stick with that. We'd find it hard to adapt to a flat.
Okay. And size-wise, how many bedrooms would you like?
Well, there's just myself, my husband, and our son.
So you definitely need a 2-bedroom property. But how about having a guest room? I might be able to find a 3-bedroom property for you.
Yes, that would be ideal. We're sure to have family visiting often.
All right, I've made a note of that. Now, are there any other requirements for your new property?
Well, it's not essential, but it'd be handy to have an office for when my husband works from home. It doesn't need to be a big one. I guess it all comes down to budget.
Yes. Okay, Anna. Well, I've certainly got enough to be getting on with, and I will...
That is the end of Part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 1. Part 2. You will hear a supervisor at Holly's supermarket talking to a group of new employees. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Welcome to Holly's supermarket. I'm sure you'll all enjoy working in our dedicated team here. So, what will you be doing? Well, we're open Monday through Sunday, so you'll need to be able to work weekends as well as irregular weekday shifts. These sometimes start at 5 a.m. or finish at 11 p.m. Your duties will include checking and unpacking lorry deliveries, as well as working on the shop floor, stocking shelves and so on. But you'll only be required to do manual lifting if the goods are light. When the store is very busy, you'll also have to assess changing priorities. For example, if there's a queue at the tills, you'll jump on a spare one to help. If you notice something's been spilt and the surface is a little bit wet, you'll get a mop to clean it up. No need to check with the manager first. Similarly, if bakery items are selling quickly, you'll help cook some more. And if a customer can't find, say, the apples, you'll instantly leave what you're doing and show them. But you'll still get time off to relax too, of course. We pride ourselves on a positive attitude here. A little small talk shows you're interested in the customers and are providing excellent service, just as long as you don't overdo it and keep another customer waiting. And always smile. It forces you to stay positive, and being generally upbeat makes your whole team happy too. This increases efficiency and gives a good impression to customers. If it's quiet, help someone pack their bags. Customers really appreciate it, especially when they've bought more than they expected to. Staying calm's also a necessity. If a customer's unhappy for any reason, keep cool and call for a supervisor to help diffuse a situation if things are getting out of hand. Occasionally, when working tills, you'll find yourself waiting for someone to extract their wallet from the bottom of a cluttered bag, while a long queue of annoyed customers builds up. You have to make sure, however hard it might be, that you remain composed.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
So, now let's look at the plan of the supermarket. Have you all got your plans? Okay, good. We'll start with the staff entrance. Today you came in through the customer entrance, clearly marked on the bottom of your plan, but in future you'll enter through the door in the top left-hand corner of the diagram. Please don't confuse this with the emergency exits in the top right-hand corner and bottom left. It's very important that these are kept clear at all times. Regarding the manager's office, some of you may have attended interviews here when it was next to the newspaper and magazine sales area. However, it's recently been moved and is now the circular space marked on the right of your plans. When the manager's not on the shop floor, that's where you'll find her. The storage and unpacking area. You may be asked to help out here, both before and after opening hours. This is represented by the largest of the 4 rectangles in the top section of the plan. It tends to get very busy there at times, so please be careful on entering and leaving this area. There's a kitchen on site where food and drinks are prepared for customers. It has specialist staff, but some of you may have to fill in occasionally. On the plan, it's shown by the triangular shape to the left of the tinned goods aisle. It's very busy, as many customers like to take a break in the cafe and read a newspaper before or after doing their shopping. Cleaning equipment is stored in a cupboard. It's the smaller of the 2 squares marked near the vegetable and fruit section, and can come in very handy. You'd be surprised how often we have to mop up squashed tomatoes or grapes. Finally, you'll be pleased to know there's a separate staff relaxation area. This is at the top of your plan, between the frozen goods section and the exit. As well as comfortable chairs, there's also a microwave for heating up snacks and a drinks dispenser. So, let's go there now.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear 2 early childhood education students discussing a presentation they will give on reading picture books with children. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, are you ready to discuss our presentation?
Yeah, sure.
So, what are we going to say about teachers reading picture books with young children?
I think we should start with the reasons why teachers use picture books.
The journal article we read mentioned several picture books and why they're popular with teachers.
Right, like I Spy Friends. It's a lovely story.
Yeah, the children like to find the familiar faces from the fairy tales they know so well.
And they're all doing predictable things. The article said children find this familiarity very comforting.
Yes. Now, how about Good Night Little Rabbit, which has those delightful pictures? I love the way the colours get darker as the book progresses, indicating how evening turns into night.
Me too. The article said that's why teachers like it.
Very cute. And a good example of visual subtext. Hard to believe that it came out over 60 years ago. It's still relevant.
I really liked what the article said about the boat party. There's a lot of repetition, which I think would be great for vocabulary development.
That's true. But apparently it's the images that make it popular with children. The artist is really well known, and children often ask for her books.
Oh, that's good to know.
And shall we also include Puppy and Friends?
Yes, it sounds like an innocent title, but the article warns that there's a bit of a fright. You know, the one on the last page when the puppy suddenly encounters the scary cat. Teachers like to use this to help children explore their emotions.
Sounds good. Hats and Socks is a good one. It doesn't really have a beginning and an end, does it? Which is unusual.
That's why teachers like this one, though. Because it's so different, it's good for children to hear a story that doesn't follow the usual pattern.
And the pages are so full of life and colour. A good choice. Okay, and for our last one, how about A Family Adventure? This one uses a lot of the same language throughout, which I think can help with letter and word recognition. Teachers say it has a really poetic feel to it. They often sing it to a simple tune.
Yes, and it's full of beautiful watercolours too.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
In the next part of our presentation, shall we look at some of the other research? I really liked Smith's article about the history of picture books. Picture books haven't been around for that long, of course, and as we know from our reading lists, there's a lot of research on them already. Smith makes some interesting points.
Yes, one thing that shocked me was that some people don't consider picture books as proper writing, because they don't have enough words in them.
Yes, that was unexpected for me as well. I think they should be just as respected as other works of fiction. Smith also mentioned that books from other countries are very popular here, even though they don't show our daily life. I think that's interesting.
But it's the same for adult fiction too. People want variety. What I didn't realize is how fixed the number of pages is.
Me neither. I wasn't expecting that they're so strictly limited to 32 pages. It's important, so let's include it.
All right. Now let's think about other aspects of picture books we want to include in our presentation. How about the characters?
Okay, well, a lot of them feature animals, or families often in very traditional roles. But do you think we need to talk about that? For me, the main thing is that they are mostly printed as board books. The cardboard material makes it easy for young children to turn their pages.
I agree, and it's essential for children to hold books and learn how they open at the front and that the text goes in a certain direction.
Good point. Why don't we also discuss how culture is important in picture books? like the importance of respecting the elderly.
Yes, it's probably different all over the world. Would it be interesting to make a comparison between modern and historical picture books and consider future directions for the genre?
It sounds interesting, but I don't have any research on that, so we'd better leave it.
So what's next? We don't need...
That is the end of Part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 3. Part 4. You will hear a geography professor telling his class about an upcoming field trip to the far north of Quebec in Canada. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. Next week is the Geography 331 field trip to the far north of Quebec. Today, I'll discuss your trip and your tasks. As you know, you will be close to the Arctic Circle. You're going to travel up the James Bay Road through a region that is very remote and uninhabited, yet very beautiful. The highway is 620 kilometers long, but it's fully paved for the entire length. Where the highway begins, there is a roadside office where you must stop. The road is remote, so your registration is very important in case of an emergency. The office is staffed 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. You have to sign in to go up the road and sign out upon your return. For additional safety, at different places along the highway, telephones have been installed which connect with staff in the office. Remember, there is no mobile service in this remote area. The first work of your field trip is at the end of the James Bay Road in Radisson, a small town of only 300 inhabitants. You will stay at Radisson Research Center, which works with various universities and Hydro-Quebec to carry out studies into the ecology of the region. Because the research center and the road exist as a result of the development of hydroelectricity complexes in northern Quebec, Hydro-Quebec is responsible for all emergency assistance and security of all visitors. Your first few days at the center will be spent attending lectures about their past research. You will hear that they have paid particular attention to any disturbance to the land caused by insects. After that, you will visit the various outpost stations. There are 3 of them, and when you visit them, you'll be able to observe how data on the varying patterns of the climate is collected and published for scientific research. The second part of your field trip is back down the James Bay Road to the Trans-Tega Road, which is the northernmost continuous unpaved road in eastern North America. In fact, it's very uneven gravel, so drivers have to be very careful. Hydro-Quebec cautions that driving over rocks on the rough road may cause severe damage to the car. Any breakdown is serious, as repairs are costly. Along the way, you will be stopping at 2 hydroelectric generating stations, each on a different river. There you'll meet with engineers who will explain and demonstrate how rainfall has an impact on producing electric energy. Your last 2 days of the trip will be spent camping out in the taiga on the Canadian Shield. Taiga is the Russian term for a type of forest. You will find the region is relatively poor in the number of plant species, yet there is a great variety of wildlife that can be seen. You'll go to an area that once had forest fires, and you'll see how the landscape has naturally small rocky hills which confine the lower wetlands. These low-lying areas are called muskeg, which is made up of slowly decomposing plants. It is not safe to walk on it, as it has pools that are not easily seen, so keep to the rocks. The muskeg is home to many small birds and waterfowl. In fact, there are at least 60 varieties, so keep your waterproof digital cameras handy so you can take plenty of pictures. Then we will have documentation of the existing waterfowl, as some are becoming extinct. Water is a problem in this area, so you'll also be collecting test tubes of water to bring back to our research lab for analysis. It needs to be monitored for pollution that may be caused by rainfall coming from the south.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4.
That's the end of the listening test. You will now have 2 minutes to check your answers.